how you doing? Today we're here with my December wrap up. I read a shitload in December. Like honestly, I was in a reading slump for November, and then this month I thought I need to make up for that, and I more than well did. I did not expect to go this hard this month, but I did. This is my best reading month ever since I like started tracking my reading in like spreadsheets, which was in 2020. So that's all there was to say, really. I also did a couple of rereads this month that I'm really excited to talk about with you. So let's just delve into the stats. Starting off with the total amount of books that I read, which is a 24, which amounted to a total amount of pages read of 8,132, which is an average of 338.83 pages per book and 262.32 pages per day. Those are high numbers, I know. When it comes to the format of these books, 11 of the books that I read I physically own. 3 were ebooks, 8 were galleys from NetGalley, and 2 were library books. Then for rating, we are all over the scales this month with 1 1-star, 4 2 stars, 4 3 stars, 6 4 stars, and 9 5 stars. And an average rating of 3.75. I love it here. Then for age range, we have a 50-50 split with 12 young adult novels and 12 adult books. For genre, we have 9 contemporary novels, 1 historical fiction, 1 non-fiction, 6 graphic novels, 6 fantasies, and 1 classic. So let's just immediately delve into the books that I read, starting off with Same Time Next Year by Tessa Bailey, which I gave 1 of 5 stars to, and it's a galley got from NetGalley. This is a novella. It's a New Year's novella, so it starts on New Year's and then has like little vignettes throughout the year, and it ends on the other New Year. And it's a marriage of convenience story, and I didn't like it. Like honestly, I'd have to say this is the first time I read this one. I barely remember anything about it. I blocked it from my memory because I did not think that this was a good book at all. I really didn't like either of our main characters. I thought the romance was very poorly developed, and just some aspects of this book gave me the ick. So then the next book that I read is 10 Things I Love About You by Julia Quinn, which I give 5 stars to, which was such a lovely surprise because the first book in the series I gave 1 star. I really didn't like, and then the second one I gave 3 stars, but this one 4. Really enjoyed it. I really loved the couple in this one. I thought both of our main characters were really funny and had great banter together, and I just really enjoyed reading about them, and the scenes they were in together was just so lovely. And I thought the romance was also extremely well developed, and I just had a great time reading this book. Then the next book that I read is Verankerd by Dany, which I gave 5 stars to. This is a memoir about one of like the news anchors here in Belgium. He recently retired, so it is like his book about his career basically, and I really enjoyed reading this book. I learned a lot throughout it, especially as it goes over the history of VTM as well as a like network, which I thought was really interesting. It does mainly focus on like the news side of things, but I do think it was a lovely insight into all of that and like the evolution of it, and I had a fun time reading it. Then next I reread Heartstopper Volume 1 by Alice Oseman, which I gave 5 stars to. I just absolutely adore this series, and I had such a fun time rereading this first volume. I just feel like it's, I mean, I already loved this when I first read it, but now being so far into the series, I always have so much fun revisiting this one because everything in here was just so simple and wholesome, and it's just nice kind of seeing these 2 characters develop their friendship originally and see them catching feelings for each other. And then of course also we read Heartstopper Volume 2 by Alice Oseman, which I also gave 5 stars to. Again, this is a very cute, wholesome volume, and this delves more into like the beginning stages of Nick and Charlie's relationship, and it's always just so adorable. And Nick is a master flirter. Like honestly, his flirting with this book is so like it's on another level. It's on another level. Like it's so good, and so many iconic moments from the series appear in this volume, and I was blushing the entire way through. It just was so adorable. And then next I reread Heartstopper Volume 3 by Alice Oseman, which I also gave 5 stars to. Are you shocked yet? This one takes place mostly in Paris, and it's on like a school trip. We delve much more into like the friendships of the side characters and like the different kind of friendship dynamics within the series as well, which I really enjoy. I love the Paris squad, and I love kind of getting to learn more about like these side characters, and it kind of starts to feel more of like a real world and not just Nick and Charlie's story. And then yet another reread for Heartstopper Volume 4 by Alice Oseman, which I give 5 out of 5 stars to. This is my favorite in the series, probably. This is also emotionally the heaviest one. This delves into a lot of heavy topics, but I feel like it is done within a sense of like, it's told through the lens of recovery, not of suffering, and that's something I really like. And I really fucking love this volume. That's all you gotta know. But if you're wondering why I did all that rereading, it is obviously because Heartstopper Volume 5 by Alice Oseman came out. I also gave this 5 out of 5 stars. So good. And again, Alice Oseman just manages to write Nick Nelson in a way that I just very heavily relate to. It's something I've always had throughout the entire series, and it definitely came back within this one where I'm like, damn, okay, that hit close to home. You did not need to do that. But something I really liked about this volume is that it kind of delves more into like Charlie's recovery, but kind of more from the standpoint of him picking up his life again. And then when it comes to Nick, we kind of see him grappling with his future. He is a year away from graduating and he is having to decide what to do with his life after that, if he wants to go to uni and what uni he wants to go to, what he wants to study, or if he wants to work, wants to take a gap year, all of those things. And I really like all of those elements, especially as also the discussion of long distance relationships comes into this. And I thought this was so lovely, and I read this so quickly and I hate myself for doing that. Then next I read Forget Me Not by Alyson Derrick. I gave this book 2 out of 5 stars, and yeah, I was kind of surprised with how much I ended up enjoying this book. I picked this up because again, one of my favorite books of last year was She Gets the Girl by Alyson Derrick and Rachael Lippincott. Because I really loved that book, I was excited to check this one out. This is Alyson Derrick's like solo debut, but I also, the synopsis of it just deals with a lot of things that I typically don't like. With the main part is this is an amnesia book. The main character, he has amnesia. That's just something I typically am not like the biggest fan of, and I surprisingly really like that in this book. And I really liked just how this book was executed. I liked the romance within it as well. I do think it was a little bit underdeveloped, if I'm being completely honest, but especially when it comes to like a main character having to rediscover those feelings again, I feel like that was a little bit rushed. Then next we have Christmas with the Billionaire by Leslie Nord, which I gave 5 stars to the guy I got from NetGalley. And now you might say, that's not your cup of tea. I know, it doesn't look like it, but I thought I did a video in December and November, but was posted in December, reading a bunch of Christmassy books because I have not read a whole lot in my lifetime, and I just I liked the idea of them, so I was hoping that I would like the execution of them. And this is a collection of 6 Christmas billionaire romance novella, so I was hoping that this would be like a silly, fun, steamy time, but instead I was just very, very bored while reading this collection, especially because it's 6 stories, but I feel like all of those 6 stories are the same story, just with slightly different characters each and every time. Then next I read King of Greed by Ana Huang, which I gave 3 out of 5 stars to, and I hate myself for it because Kill of Wrath and Kill of Pride are so, I love those 2 books, and I really like the setup for this romance that we got within the first 2 books, kind of the little glimpses we got at these characters in their relationship, because this is a marriage in trouble romance. So within the first 2 books, like these 2 are already married. We see them at times, and especially in the second book we kind of see the cracks in their relationship already forming. And I was really excited for this book, especially because over this year I discovered I really like marriage in trouble romances. So I was so excited for this book, and I let it be such a mess of letdown for me. Like, I really didn't like it. I really loved our main character Alessandra, our female main character, that she was amazing, and I feel like because I ended up loving her so much, I feel like I wanted more for her than this book gave her, you know? When it came to like the romance or like the male lead, I feel like she didn't get what she deserved, and the whole book is about her getting the romance she deserves. Like, this the whole point is that Dominic is supposed to like reform himself to be worthy of Alessandra again, but I feel like by the end of the book he still isn't worthy of her, and I just felt like, girl, you're better off without him, and that's not the mark of a good romance, I would say. And the next book that I read is Prejudice and Pittsburgh by Rachael Lippincott, which I gave 5 out of 5 stars to. This was just right up my alley. It's a YA historical kind of romance, but it's also contemporary, it's time traveling. it sounded so much fun, which is why I was so excited to pick this up, as well as also previously loving Rachael Lippincott's other works. This was so much fun. I really loved her two main characters. It's dual POV, which I thought was amazing. I really loved how Rachael Lippincott managed to write such distinctive voices for each one of them. I felt like that was so well done, and especially what I really loved about this is as this book continues and these characters fall in love with each other and get to know each other, they kind of like influence each other. They kind of mannerisms from one kind of slip into the other. Come on, isn't that like brilliant story writing? I loved it. I also really loved the romance in this. I thought it was adorable. I loved the personal character journeys of our two main characters as well. I loved the connection they found within each other, and I just feel like this is one of the best romances I've read all year. Then next I read Wrapped with a Bow by Lillie Vale, which I gave 5 stars to, and is a Gallica from Verankerd. This is again from my Christmas project. The next couple of books are gonna be, but what happened with this one is that I was really enjoying my time. I really liked the romance in this one. I thought our two main characters had great banter. I liked the way the relationship was developing. I thought they were really cute together. I really loved the Christmas setting, the small town setting, everything about it I was really loving. And then in the second half, just almost nothing happened. Like, it got so incredibly boring in the second half, and a lot of the activities, like Christmas activities we were promised in the first half, didn't come to fruition, and I felt a bit disappointed by the second half. Then next I read Finding My Elf by David Valdes, and I give 2 out of 5 stars to that one, and it's another Gallica from Verankerd. This one I really did not like. It's a YA, and the main character works as kind of like an elf to like a mall Santa, and there is this competition going on as well within this mall, like the best elf. And I liked that competition. I liked that aspect of it. I thought it was a fun way to frame the story. It gave all the Christmas vibes, and that's like the only thing I liked about it. I thought our main character was absolutely insufferable. The romance felt like an afterthought and was very poorly developed because of it, and I don't know. Then next I read A Winter in New York by Josie Silver, which I gave 2 out of 5 stars to, another Gallica from Verankerd. This is one where I feel like I didn't like the romance, but I did like the rest of this book. I thought the romance within this novel, there was a lot of surrounding choices that were made that gave me the ick, and I wasn't the biggest fan of, and I don't know, I wasn't feeling the romance. But another big aspect within this book is the grief our main character experiences over the loss of her mother, and also her moving on from previously being in an abusive relationship, and I do think those things were handled really well, and the resolution to this book made me sob. Then the next book that I read is 3 Holidays and a Wedding by Uzma Jalaluddin Marissa Stapley, which I give 5 stars to, and is a Gallica from Verankerd. This one was just really boring. There, I said it. Something I liked in this one was kind of the conversion of the different holidays, and how our main characters kind of talked about what these holidays meant to them and their families, and like the different traditions they had surrounding them. I also really liked the friendship between our 2 female protagonists. I thought that was easily the strongest part of this book. Like, it was so well crafted, but I just thought the rest of the book was really boring. I feel like it's got also pretty repetitive. I thought the love interests, because each protagonist got a love interest, I thought they were very one-dimensional characters, and I thought the romance weren't well developed at all. So yeah, I ended up just being really bored while reading this. Then the next book that I read is At Time of a Drunk, I Needed a Love Potion and a Werewolf by Kimberly Lemming, which I give 5 out of 5 stars to, the Gallica from Verankerd. I read the first book in the series last month, and I just had such a fun time reading it, so I of course had to move on to book 2, and I love this one even more. Like, I genuinely thought this book was so funny. Like, I laughed out loud so many times. The romance in this is also absolutely adorable. The love interest in this is like a puppy dog. Like, I mean, he's a werewolf, and when he is in his werewolf form, he can be scary, but as a human, he's a puppy dog, and he's adorable. I love him so much. And then I also really love our female main character. Like, she's such a badass, and so again funny as well. And I loved her relationship. I really loved how it got its time to develop and grow, and how there was like this deeper emotional bond within it, is besides it starting off a little bit incel-y. Then next I read Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber, which I gave 5 stars to. This one is another one I really enjoyed. I really liked the fantastical kind of writing within this book. I just thought it was really well done. I thought our main character was a bit stupid, but I did like following her. I liked the plot. I thought it was very engaging and full of twists and turns. I just thought that this was very obviously like the first book in a series. It felt very much like set up for what's yet to come, and was very excited to continue on with the series immediately after this one. But first, I read A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, which I gave 5 out of 5 stars to, and this was another reread. I just kind of reading a lot of those Christmas books and like not feeling them. I kind of felt a bit like a Grinch or Scrooge. I was not having a good time, and then I rewatched them up at Christmas Carol every Christmas Eve because that's my favorite movie of all time. And while we watched that, I kind of felt the Christmas spirit again, and I wanted to reread this. I read this 2 times before, and it was a delight. It made me stop feeling like a Grinch. Like, this is such a good book, like a good story, and I really enjoyed it. And this book, there's like several stories, but I only care about A Christmas Carol. Like, where is it? This is how long A Christmas Carol is. Like, it's very short, it's very quick. And then next, I read That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Human by Kimberly Lemming, which I give it 5 stars. So I got from Nagale. This is the last within this series, and I also thought this was the most disappointing book I read this month, mainly because it just managed to be very boring, which, considering my main praise of book 1 and 2 is that they're so much fun and I never laughed so much while reading books, this just felt like a crime for this to be so boring. I thought the romance was very poorly developed, even more like all of the books are very instant lovey, but I feel like they do, like, besides that instant moment of like instant love, afterwards I do feel like the author does a great job at kind of developing the romances. I don't think that was the case within this book. I thought it was very poorly developed. And next, I read The Ballad of Never After by Stephanie Garber, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars to. And this book can be very summed up in like 2 parts for me. Like, the first half was just not it. I thought it wasn't well written. I really hated Evangeline in the first part, and the only reason I kept on reading was Jax, because I genuinely love him so much. So that's what kept me reading throughout that first half. And then the second half, just like, there is something that happens and it kind of like shifts the plot a little bit in a different direction, but amongst that happening, I feel like the writing also got so much better. Like, the quality of it got so much better. Evangeline became way less insufferable. She still makes stupid decisions because that's who she is, but she isn't as insufferable. The story got so much more engaging and action packed, and actually felt like the twists and turns in that were clever and well done. And I love the romance that became a very big part of the second half. Like, just the angst of it is just, it's so good, and I loved it. Like, honestly, the second half of this book is my favorite thing I've read all year. And next, I read A Curse Which We Love by Stephanie Garber, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars to as well. This is the final book within the series, and the Ballad of Never After ends on quite a cliffhanger. So I immediately dove into this book and I really enjoyed it. I think as a book this is very strong. Like, it's very engaging plot, has interesting characters. The romance takes a little bit of a backseat within this one, but it makes sense for the story we're telling. We get 2 different POVs within this as well that weren't in the first 2 books, that I thought were great additions to the book. I thought the ending was really strong and the romance is just slow burn perfection. But when it comes to this being a series finale, I don't think it did a great job at that. I feel like I don't feel like it definitely forgot some of the characters that were present within the first 2 books. Like, they were not in this one, and that did not make sense to not even have them have a slight mention. Like, where did they go? And then when it came to a lot of like side characters and side quests, let's say it that way, I feel like they were just dropped for some reason. Like, Stephanie Garber just forgot about them in the last 50 pages. Then next, I read Babel or Babel by Ana Huang, which I gave 5 stars to. This was on my top of TBR list. This is probably the biggest stretch on there, even if there are 4 other books that I didn't manage to get to. But this definitely felt, when I made the list, like the biggest one that I was intimidated of, because it's quite a chunk or it's not like within my comfort zone of reading, and because it is so tremendously hyped. And when it comes to hype books, I either immediately read them because I'm so enthralled in the hype, or I put them off so long because the hype scares me, and this definitely was that case. And despite it being at the top of my mind the entire year, I did not manage to get to it until the end of the year, and I'm like so upset at myself for it, because this was phenomenal. Like, this was so good. Like, it deserves all the hype it's ever gotten. I do understand why some people don't like it so, because especially in the first half of this book, this can be very dense. Because it gets very academical, and like it just explains a lot of things that don't seem like they have a point, but they kind of do. And I totally understand that if you aren't interested in those topics, that it's a slog to get to. I get that. But I generally was really interested in it, and I love learning about these things. I think Ana Huang had such a strong grip on her world and on history, and I really I thought this was so brilliantly crafted and I really loved it. I loved the characters in it as well. There was like a main friend group that centers this book. Like it's about one main character fully, but like, it has a friend group and it kind of centers around them as well. They're a big part of this book, and I thought that friend group was so interesting. It was a bit toxic but so full of love as well, and I don't know, it's such an interesting dynamic, and I just thought this was just a very interesting story and very well crafted, and I feel like I'm not intelligent enough to properly discuss this book. And then the final book of 2023 was Demon in the Woods by Leigh Bardugo and Dany Pendergast, which I gave 2 out of 5 stars to. This originally started as a novella that Leigh Bardugo wrote about the Darkling and kind of like his origin story, and then they turned it into a graphic novel. And when I bought this, I said to myself, I'm gonna read this once I'm caught up with the Shadow and Bone show, and that was when only the first season was out. And it was like 1 or 2 episodes behind, and then like the second season came out and I was like, oh damn. But I did finally get caught up with the show. I finished it because it's cancelled, so it's done. So I watched everything that's out, and I decided that this would be a perfect final read for the year because it's quick, it's fun, it's a graphic novel, always amazing. And yeah, I kind of ended up feeling a bit meh about this one. I don't know. I feel like it was a fine enough read. I had fun with it, but like ultimately I do think it's very forgettable. That is absolutely everything I read in the month of December. I am so sorry for this being such a long video, but I also had like 24 books to talk about, so I had to do something. I would love to know what you read in the month of December, so let me know about that in the comments, as well as if you read any of these books, what you thought of them. I'd love to discuss. And yeah, that's it for me today. Hopefully I'll see you next time. Bye. Here I am again, the same old situation. Why does the God thing have to be so complicated? Should've played